was reading a thread a few days ago, and it was something to do with Artifact, and it was about how Valve have made no announcements about it. And in the comments, someone said something like, "Ooh, Valve aren't making games anymore. Look what a shit show they've become. Fuck Valve, you know? The one game they're making, they don't even make any announcements. They don't care about users." And I think the picture that this company is trying to paint is so wrong. It's so it's the complete opposite of what Valve is and what Valve stands for. And I just wanted to take this video to go through Valve's lifespan and all that they have worked for and all that they have done to innovate gaming in general. So um, let's start with the comment that Valve haven't made many games because it's a very popular one, you know. Valve just made the few great games that they have, and they haven't made anything else. And the games that they have made, it's usually series and they end up very quickly. So what's wrong with people saying that? Well, first of all, consider this. Yes, they have fewer games than EA. Yes, they have fewer games than Blizzard. But what other fucking gaming companies are there, you know? Like Rockstar makes GTA 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and yes, they're great games, like each better than the other. But when you combine them, they don't have that many. That they don't have more games than Valve do. You know, other games, the guys who made Quake, well, that's my point exactly. The guys who made Quake, you don't even know their fucking name because they're only popular for Quake. You've got Epic Games who made Unreal Tournament and Fortnite. That's the only good games they've made. Two games. There are so many people who are um, one-hit wonders. You know, they make the one game and then they disappear because they don't have any more original ideas. Valve, uh, yes, they're behind EA and they're behind Blizzard, but they have so many more games compared to everyone else. And all these games, they are better than Blizzard and EA, you know? Every single one of their games, in my eyes, is better than Blizzard. Yeah, Blizzard have. Okay, maybe they're on par with Blizzard in some respects, but overall, their overall quality of their games is better than Blizzard. And it's close because Blizzard have made some great games. But I think overall, Valve has made better games, in my humble opinion. You know? And you know, so let's talk about Valve's games. The Half-Life series, the Left 4 Dead series, the Portal series, you know, always series, because they know when to end the series and they know how to build the first game into the second game. You know, they know how to build up the second game so that the second game is better than the first game. You know, you talk about Half-Life 2, Left 4 Dead 2, Portal 2, and I think that's what's so great about Valve. They know how to run a sequel. They know how to run a series and not run it into the ground. You know, other than being able to build up to the second game and deliver on the second game, they also don't milk. Past the second game, they don't ever milk. That's why they don't have a third game because they don't they've run out of ideas, you know. Making a third game, yes, it will bring them more money, but when it's shit, it will disappoint the gaming community. So the gaming community hates on Valve for not making it. Sorry if I said Blizzard earlier, like I meant Valve. I don't know if I did, but I might have, because I do that sometimes. But Valve, whenever they make the series, they don't milk for a third game because if they know it'll be disappointing to the users, they put that over them making money off of the game. That's like they just take their hands off of it. And as easy as it sounds to just take your hands off of the series after it's been good, it's really hard because only Valve does that, you know? There are so many people who just ruin their game, you know? They make the few great games and then they make the third one or the fourth one and it ruins everything, you know? So kudos to Valve on that because they don't want to fuck the users over for in order for them to make money. And users and like the consumers still hate on them for that, which is I think so undeserved. So um obviously that's one of the main complaints of Valve, and I think it's so undeserved, you know. Um, and let's talk about these series, yeah. So besides them being great standalone games, you know, they are some of the best games. You know what else they are? Open source. You know, they allowed for the birth of CS, TF2, Gmod. They have been Valve have been so accepting of the modding community in general, even taking games like Dota, which is not based off of which is not based off of which is not a mod of Half-Life, but it's a mod of Warcraft. So they in general embrace mods, because mods, in their eyes, are just innovating their game. And Valve is always about innovating. When they made Half-Life, that series innovated the story game genre. You know, it was something new. Portal 2, it was its unique own thing. Maybe it didn't innovate, but it's unique. And same for Half-Life. Maybe it didn't innovate, but it was unique. All their games are unique, you can't compare them to anything else. They are their own thing. And they can be said to innovate. It's very much down to personal interpretation of the word innovate, what it means to you. In my eyes, Half-Life 2 innovated. Well, sorry, the Half-Life series innovated, and that's a common trend for Valve, as you will see in this video. They innovate, 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 and they embrace mods because they allow for innovation. CS innovated, you know, it it it, it, it spurred on from this game Half-Life, and it made something new. And Valve have embraced this, so they have bought like CS and Dota, these two mods, and they made them into great games. They made them into fucking giants, which and they made them some of the giants of the esports community, And TF2 and Gmod, in their own respect, they're also great games. They're not really esports, um, but they took. I'm going to be specifically talking about CS and Dota. They bought them off of the original developers and they made them into great esports titles. They they are some of the biggest games today, and they have such a great player base, such a big player base. And in Dota's case, they've even kept the guy who developed it, who worked on the mod. He's now the lead designer, So they understand that the lead designer will do more than they will be able to do, and he has a vision, and they're letting him enhance this vision, and they're just helping him enhance it, and that's why I respect that. Yeah, they kind of shit the bed with CS, but it's still such a great game, which I guess goes on to show how great CS 1.6 was. But I mean, Valve didn't fuck it up that much. Like, I think CS is a worse game than CS 1.6, but I mean, they introduced the Molotov into the game, a new mechanic. People shat on it at first, but now people really like it, It's hard to innovate with games like CS because the community is very set in stone about that game. So, um, Valve's trying to innovate is not very welcomed into that team. They just want to leave the game. So I think that's something that Valve did wrong there. In that case, trying to innovate too hard and pushing it a bit. But it happens sometimes. And besides all that, they didn't fuck it up that much because they introduced also some great things, and it's still a great game. And at its peak, it was played by many people, and it's on a bit of a decline now, but it's still a very popular game and one of the most popular games on Steam. So I think, like, yes, they did a subpar job with CS, but that's what it was, subpar, and it's just a blip on their record. So I wanted to talk about a bit more about the liberal approach, Valve's liberal approach, because it translates into how they've managed the esports scene and tournaments in general with Dota and CS. So I'm mainly going to be talking here about CS because I follow the CS competitive scene. Um, with tournament organizing, they famously in CS given the majors over to other companies because they know, ooh, another company organizing the major will be better than us trying to do a subpar job at organizing it. They've been in the scene for CS since CS 1.6 in ESL's case. They've done so much and they know better than us, so we're just going to get over our ego and let them do it because they'll do a better job than us. And kudos to them because not many people can do that. Notice like Blizzard and Riot, who are so overly bearing on their game and like their esports scene, that it's like they're just so controlling of everything, and it's bad. Um, but even more than just the few tournaments that they give over to other people, they also are so liberal in the esports scene in general, in that they only meddle with it when it's come down to the very worst. When the scandal happened with Die by Power guys, they banned them when uh the 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 skin trading, or whatever the fuck was it, the skin gambling, that's it, the skin gambling, when that happened, they had to shut it down. And the only time they fiddled with CS, it was deserved, and it was in a good way. People criticize him for the iBuy power bounds, but I think those were fair in my opinion. And subjectively looking at it without judging personalities, I think that was a fair ban. So always when Valve messes with or meddles with the esports community, it's always for a good thing, and it's really good to let it naturally just grow into what it will be. It's a very liberal approach, and I respect them for that because not many people can do that, evidently, with Riot and Blizzard. Um, so big kudos to Valve in that respect, and you know, they always, going back to innovating, right now they are innovating virtual reality. It's something that not many people, well, not many people, not anyone besides Valve is really meddling with. No big companies meddling with VR to our knowledge, because although there's probably a future in that, most companies say, oh, it's very sketchy right now. The technology around VR is very sketchy, so we won't meddle with that, because if we do, we won't do a very good job. So they're letting people like Valve innovate. Valve do their thing, they innovate, they set the baseline, and then everyone else will come in and they'll start copying. They're opening the doors for everyone. That's what Valve does, and that's why I respect them, because they don't just sit on Steam and just keep making money off of it. They're trying to do these new things. And talking about innovating, they're now gonna innovate the TCG genre. Mark my words, Artifact will be a fucking great game. Maybe it won't be as popular as Hearthstone, because Hearthstone is so like, simplistic, and therefore it's popular to very many people, very easily accessible. Um, but Artifact, when it comes out, yes, maybe it will be more complicated, but it will be a very, very good game. It will be a very complex and nuanced game, and the elitists, the game elitists who like to play hard games, will go into it. It will be a very similar story to League and Dota, where League is a simpler game, therefore it's more popular to everyone, and that's why and therefore it's more popular. And Dota is a more complicated game, and only like you know fewer people will play it, but the people who do play it will be it, the game will have a higher skill ceiling, and maybe it won't attract everyone, but it's doing its own thing, and the people who play it have respect for it in that respect. So I think Artifact will be something like that, and I think it will do a great job. And I think it will be better than Hearthstone. It will, like so many other games have tried to overtake Hearthstone. So many indie developers have tried to make a TCG, and they've always failed. Hearthstone has had a monopoly on the TCG computer genre for so long. MTG have tried. So there's so many other no-name games that I'd say, and you probably don't know them. Um, so yeah, I think Artifact is gonna be really, really good. And again, it will be innovating. Then let's get on to this. So the elephant in the room, Steam. So Steam is such a great platform. It's great for the consumers because it's free. First of all, it provides free games on its platform, and if they're not free, often they're very cheap at a discount. Sales, Steam summer sales, are steal, I guess, for the consumers. And so it's great for the consumers in that sense, because they get to play free games without the risk of uh going to third party websites, getting a virus or something like that. And they sorry, I just had a mind thought. But yeah, so it's great for the users because it provides security. You don't have to go through exe files, wizards, all that shit. Um, and it also provides discounts of great games. It popularizes great games. That's why it's great for game developers, because it can popularize because it's popularized so many games like PUBG, Rocket League, Elder Scrolls, Life is Strange. It just made them out of nothing. Those were games that didn't have that weren't made by a very large company which could popularize it themselves. They used Steam, and those became great games because of Steam, because of the opportunities that Steam gave them. Then there's GTA, Fallout, which are great games on their own, but Steam popularizes them even further. They integrate them into their system, and it's great for the developers in that sense, because it's just a way for the developers to make money and to popularize their games. It's so great. Then there's the Steam Greenlight, which is so great for no ones basically who want to make their own games. It's such a great opportunity. No one else is doing that. Only Valve. No one. EA would never do something like that because it won't make them that much money. Valve will do it because it's the right thing to do, because it will innovate, because it will give games a new platform to be created. Valve respect the users because they always work for the users. Um, and that's why I respect Valve so much, and that's why Steam is basically the greatest encapsulation as to why Valve as to what Valve does, and why I respect them for it. And people who say that they just sit on Steam and make money off of it, they should make money off of it. They've done so much for it. They should make money off of it. They have done so much great. If they just wanted to milk Steam for money and that was their only that was their only goal with it, you know what they'd do? They wouldn't bother with Greenlight because what money does that make them? Almost nothing. You know, they just popularize the great games. You know, and they wouldn't do these Team Summer sales. They keep games like PUBG at 30 pounds, and they just never lower the price of that. Like I think there's been Steam summer sales where it's gone down to 20, whether it's gone down to like lower prices. If if they wanted more money, they could charge that game for 40 pounds and people would still buy it. You know, they don't do that. After a year or two, the games go on such a good sale, on such sales for such great value, and people buy them and play them. So Steam is not at all about money. Valve is not at all just milking it for money. I think that's a very wrong point of view to have on it. Um, and you know, uh, Valve in general just doesn't sit on its doesn't just sit on its success. You know, they didn't milk Half-Life for money, Left 4 Dead for money, Portal 2 for money. They didn't like milk Steam for money. They've tried to innovate in so many ways. They're not just making the regular games that everyone else is making. They're trying to innovate with Artifact, with VR. They don't just sit on this on their previous games. They're always trying to innovate. In that sense, I compare them to Elon Musk, how he's trying to innovate with space exploration with SpaceX. I think Gabe Newell has done a lot, and Valve goes beyond games, beyond just making games. They have done so much for the gaming community, and I respect them for that. And I think all the hate that they get is undeserved. Thanks for watching.